I mean, there are a number of factors that could do that. Um, I mean, my experience with core banking system have been really diverse, different issues. Some are completely based off on customers' requirement. Some are poor system design. Some are network design. Some are just infrastructural problems. Speaking from a technical perspective, one of the main reasons why a core banking platform might be very poor in performance will be system design, largely system design, because I mean, even the Bible says that when the foundation is solid, how will I don't know, how do they say that thing? So yeah, it's mostly the system design, right? So poor processing systems, poor mechanisms, poor threading, multi-processing, and all sorts of technical jargons you can think of, right? If they are not implemented properly in core banking system, you will definitely deal with poor system performance. So you see the thing, right? And I've realized this over time. So a lot of people misconcept what a core banking system is compared to some fintech backends. Um, there is, I think we should just paint a bit of clarity on what core banking is, first of all, right? This is the most critical system every financial organization need. We are not talking of fintech right now. We are talking of the microfinances, speaking of the commercial banks as well. This system is what before we got into the Paystack, Flutterwave, and other sort of financial services exploit, the days where you log into your application or you go over to the bank and you take your cash into the bank and they punch in something into the system and they generate a receipt down to you and you move out of the bank, you sign, you drop the yellow slip, you leave with the pink slip, and all those stuffs happening. The system performing that action is the core banking platform. So today that we have this fintech boom and the rest of these things, so many people forget that there is a system like that, right? And we just tend to build off on that existing infrastructural layer that these commercial banks and some critical banking systems have in place, forgetting that there is a critical one down at the end there. So using the right tools, the right technology, the right experiences in-house, and enough research will be required to build a highly performing core banking platform and prevent some near misses, some deadly failures in the core banking system. The core banking system is the bank. So if it fails, the bank has failed. Yeah, nothing out of the ordinary, I would say. Um, I'm sure we have a number of engineers on this call. We have people with experience with enterprise level systems. I don't think there is any specific tool that is required to monitor a core banking platform for performance. You could choose to use whatever tool you decide, New Relic, Logcast, um, I mean, Sentry and the rest to monitor. So there are different levels of the system you need to monitor. And so as so many other applications, there is the code level monitoring systems, there is the error level monitoring systems, there is the global log monitoring systems, and then there's the performance monitoring system. So there are a number of monitoring tools and mechanisms you probably need to implement. But there is nothing specific. You could choose to use whatever you want, but just monitor, right? It is really important you monitor these tools. The most important thing there is that you have an eagle eye view over your core banking system because that is the asset of the company, right? But at all costs, you need to have lots of alerts, lots of notifications, lots of insight into how your core banking is performing. Um, and yeah, pretty much nothing. There's nothing out of the ordinary for monitoring a core banking system. Just have enough. No monitoring mechanism or tool is too much. As much as you have, in fact, the more the merrier. So yeah, I hope that helps. That is the most scary part in managing a core banking system. In fact, why the bank will be praying for more customers, more transaction, to build up what you just mentioned as peak. I'm sure the engineering part of every organization will be like, oh God, not again. So it's happening again. So I mean, that's one of the scariest parts in the core banking space or managing core banking systems. As much as the tools, the systems that have been abstracted outside the layer of the core banking systems are failing or have peak period where they fail for different reasons or whatsoever. You can imagine when the core banking system have at peak performance have some failures and some some probably issues that would make it to reduce performance here and there. But it is I would say throughout my career as a core banking manager, managing number of core banking platforms, deployed a number of them, done lots of integration across different sort of core banking system and different entities. I would I would say that it has been a really, really explorative time whenever there is a peak period working within the bank. Um, in fact, just performing load testing on the core banking platform, it's a bit scary because there are a number of one vulnerabilities you get to notice, right, that you didn't see from the onset. Two, there are some edge cases that hackers, scammers can probably use to exploit your system. And just taking you back to the previous point I made, where I said the core banking system is a bank, right? If the core banking system fails, the bank has failed. Now, imagine a situation where this is your core banking system. You have different orchestration layers around it. And on each of those orchestration layers, they are connected to different business entities, right? This is a bank. The bank has the investment arm, they have the loan arm, they have the deposit asset management arm, treasury, whatever the case may be. And for each of these arms of the bank, they have different layers of connecting of systems connecting to the core banking platform. So it is easier if one arm of the bank is having issue, right? It is also easier if the other arm or two, three arms of that bank is having the issues, and it has nothing to do with the core banking platform. But at peak, the core banking platform needs to answer its name, right? You're talking of the mobile applications going down, the each of those arms and entities probably having some communication issues because of massive traffic, and um, just a number of crazy things would happen. I wouldn't say that there is one particular way to prevent peak performance from occurring in your. Of course, I mean it peak performance means there's more transaction, your bank is growing and it's successful. So there is no particular way to mitigate. You just have to explore a couple ways to ensure that your system remains stable. Which I'm sure your next question would probably I'll probably shed more light on that. There are probably different ways you can orchestrate your system to ensure at peak performance or at peak seasons, it's not it wouldn't be really critical for you to manage because you have a couple things in place, expecting that to happen. There are a number of things I outlined here, just about two, three of them, and I'll add a bit here and there to complement it. And the first one is abstraction. Sorry, I might be sounding a little bit technical from the context. So in my line of work, even before Woodcore, I have been in positions where the client, the bank I'm working with, wants literally everything they're doing to be on the core banking system. And guess what? At peak periods, it becomes a challenge and you have to be blamed. So the first thing is abstraction, right? Organizations, banks specifically, should understand that the core banking system is the heart of the business, right? These things have been overly emphasized. I mean, the bigger guys using Finacle, FlexCube, and the rest, a number of them already know these things, right? So you don't build additional suite of services into your core banking application. You abstract lots of these things out. The primary functionality of the core banking system is to do the proper, generic, or legacy banking way. Deposit and withdrawal. Anything outside deposit and withdrawal, take it out. Right? Anything that goes beyond depositing into a customer account, withdrawing from a customer account, or depositing into some ledger, some books, whatever the case may be, and withdrawing from each of those entities, do well to take them out of your core banking platform, right? The legacy systems today understands this process I just said, and if you look across the billion-dollar core banking platforms, that is how it is, and they have something they call an SO architecture around this, where they reorchestrate some from some protocols like the ISOs protocol, the card protocols, the different services around the core banking system just to ensure that the primary system that ensures that bank is operational does not fail. So the first thing is abstraction. As much as you can, abstract a lot of business cases out of your core banking platform. Treasury management system today, there are systems online you can build out of it. There are so many researches on how you can build treasury management system. Abstract that. You want to build your of course, even your teller system, abstract it. Your card system, it's a no-brainer. Abstract it. Your Swift, NIPS, as many payment systems and gateways you want to incorporate into your business, right? It does not necessarily mean that they should be built into your core banking platforms. I have been in situations where um, uh, a number of the services have been built outside the core banking platform. And when any of those services go down, because of poor monitoring mechanisms across that bank, they will consider the core banking platform to be down. But in reality, core banking platform is not down. There is just one system somewhere that went down, right? So taking me back to the initial point I made, monitoring should not be overly emphasized, right? We need lots of monitoring across, core banking entities or companies using core banking platform. This is completely outside what your provider probably brings to you. You as a bank, you also need to ensure you have more visibility over your infrastructure, even more than your provider, so you can report the right issues, you can ask the right questions, and you will be completely informed through the journey. The second thing I have here is core banking systems is it is expected, right? I don't think there should be any core banking system that does not have multi-processing mechanisms internally. In fact, if a system considered to be a core banking one of a kind does not have multi-processing mechanisms, then I don't consider that to be a core banking platform, because that guy there at the lowest end of the pyramid of a banking technology stack takes all the hit. Literally, it takes all the hit. So you cannot do that or provide such systems without ensuring there is a multi-threading or multi-processing, whatever the case may be, mechanisms built into the system by default, right? Optimistic clocking is also really important. As it sounds, it can be healthy to have, it can also be detrimental to have as well. But it is important to have that because of balance changes and updates. For high volume transactions, I would give you a scenario, a classic scenario, and this is completely based off of experience I've had. Still under the Apache Fineract stack. Today it's a bit more advanced. I've used it a couple years back coming, and from when we started using it, or myself personally as a consultant before even working with Fita, I noticed a couple of things, right? A whole number of things with that application that because it looks so juicy and sweet and easy to set up and start using. We realized that some customers, some companies just get into the community, plug these things and start utilizing it. But in reality, the way that system is architected, right? The design of that system is not for a fintech. It's for a microfinance bank. It is for a microfinance bank to serve customers that walk over the counter, deposit money, and get a receipt. It is not for a fintech to shoot 2,000 transactions in 2 seconds. It is not built for that, right? So these were hard lessons I had to learn over time, right? When a really successful bank today, I would mention the name, we pushed lots of transactions and the system cracked. And we are like, okay, interesting. I think we've hit the block here. We are trying to simulate how peak periods would look like. And it was really critical. We had to, build some, just try to innovate and find ways to abstract some layers out of the system and ensure that optimistic clocking in the system is built properly. And I'll tell you that one of the critical things you deal with so many core banking systems is locking. That problem is inevitable. You will deal with it. I don't care the core banking platform, whatever it is locking, right? So that's why I said optimistic locking is good to help you secure balances on account, because I think I've worked with about 3 different core banking platforms, but one professionally. And across these core banking platforms, balances on customers' account are updates. They are not insertions, right? And when multiple requests are updating a single record in the DB, you know what happened, right? So It is something you need to deal with, but it needs to be built and managed properly just to ensure it doesn't harm the business. Because if optimistic locking in your system is not dealt with properly, what that means is it is well to say that your bank is down. Yeah, it is okay to say that because your core banking system will not be responding properly. I'll probably take one request per 3 seconds or one request per 1 minute, which is not healthy for any um, fast growing organization, be it fintech, be it the bank. Today, there is also one thing I know about today that a number of fintechs do. We we tend to build high performing transactional systems on a low performing legacy infrastructure, right? And then we tend to use things like, queuing and some of all these fancy technologies, AMPQ protocols, and all sort of systems to serve as a right? And then you deal with reconciliation problems at the end of the day. You lose billions, if billions, if not billions of amount of money, right? So those things sometimes, while they are solid way of architecting these infrastructural communications, sometimes they can be very detrimental. So I think we need to take a step back, re-architect our systems as financial organizations, and ask ourselves, why do you want to move 1 million transactions in 2 minutes? What for? Right? Because for that, there's no way you're expecting a response before you send the next one. It means that there are people behind the scene manually doing your reconciliations, which is not absolute. The third thing I have here is horizontal scaling with core banking platforms. So at peak periods, more resources will be required to ensure those traffic are being managed, even if they are going to fall out, maybe one or two of them. And it is advisable that you have some sort of auto scaling mechanisms. I would use auto scaling because our infrastructure is completely on the Amazon cloud service system. So it is important that you have some sort of auto scaling mechanisms in place, just to ensure that at peak periods you are hands off even while you monitor, but you're hands off and your system just lasts. It's like an elastic; it opens up and then close back when the traffic goes down. And then the last thing would be failovers, right? These things have been overly emphasized, and I am sure that 9 out of 10 fintech startups in Nigeria don't have failover systems. There is no way they would have that because it is really expensive to have. We are literally saying that we want a replication of what exists that customer is using as a backup, and it is going to be redundant. So you're just incurring bills on it and you're not using it, waiting and expecting for a failure to happen so you can replace. So I think those things are really important and they are key to have as any financial institution or any startup fintech building financial systems to put in place to ensure at peak periods you are at the top of the game. So the best core banking systems till date, this statement might be a bit biased. Core banking systems that are built with either of these technologies, C#, Java, or C, right? And first off, looking at the ecosystem in general, not just Nigeria, you realize that companies are moving very far away from these programming languages I mentioned to a Golang, Golang is the closest in terms of performance to Python and to a number of those companies. But please, by all means, don't go to core banking systems built with JavaScript. I'm sorry to say that, but don't. Because the core functionalities of these core banking platforms boosting performance, they are by default built into these critical programming languages suitable for enterprise level systems. So the question would be that, or how I'm going to answer that question is this: have there been any recent changes in these three stacks of programming languages till date? I don't think so much. However, there are a couple of things you can put in place to ensure optimal performance on your core banking platform using the latest technologies. Before today, or before the past 4 years, um, AMPQ protocols have not been a thing, right? Um, Still before the past 4 years, GPRCs have also not been a thing, right? Um, Before the past 4 years as well, what else? That there is one more thing I needed to mention. Statelessness is also there and all that. But let me dwell on these two for now. AMPK protocols and gRPCs, really important to optimize core banking platforms. I mean, we are well aware of gRPCs. It's an alternative to HTTP and quite faster than HTTP request. So it is recent times we have realized that companies have um, built additional layers to their core banking system in attachment, still back to the abstraction I mentioned on gRPC protocol, right? What you don't want to do is to update your existing core banking system from a REST communication to gRPC. I'm sorry to say that's going to be a lot for you to do it, so you don't want to play to that end. And so the companies will make this advancement in their ecosystems. They try to incorporate additional systems as an additional layer on top of what they have. I mean, I'll give you this note. There are companies, in fact, so many financial companies that don't expose the core banking system to anyone internally. There are some companies you visit today, even some banks, they are just about 2, 3, or 4% that have access to the core banking platform. You don't go there. You know what? That is the bank, right? That's the most critical system in the bank. So today, we're in a position where we serve a semi banking industry. And you hear things like, this thing is supposed to be in a core banking system. And you're like, excuse me, do you really understand what the core banking system is? That is the critical part of your business. That is just like a license. I mean, for crying out loud, you cannot have a microfinance license or even a banking license in Nigeria, I'm sure anywhere in the world, without a core banking platform. So there are some shifts that has been done in the ecosystem over time to ensure that highly performing systems are built outside the core banking system, and the core banking system just dwells on those two things I mentioned before: deposit or withdrawal, nothing more than that, right? So those are the changes I would say. And today there are more innovative core banking systems in the market. You would see the ones with SOAs, you see the ones that have treasury features, you see that so many of them. I could mention about 10, 20 names right now. And the core engine of whatever they're offering, it is not being advertised, right? Because that is the part you need not to know about. That is the most critical part that powers the rest of those branches that you're seeing, right? So the legacy core banking infrastructures, innovation is still at the top of it. It is not there yet. But around that legacy systems, lots of innovations have happened. And that is also where we play in, because what we ensure is we isolate our key core banking platform. That is the most critical component of us as a business and also the bank we serve. And then we had to, provide some properly and decently built suite of services around it, just to ensure that banking operations are being done with joy and, of course, utmost happiness. First of all, don't optimize your core banking, your legacy core banking platform. Don't go there, right? That's the first answer. Optimize on top of it, right? It should be a more of a vertical optimization. Don't optimize horizontally. And the reason I mentioned before now that that thing that you usually see these memes around that from on programming, right? That if there's this icon that would say the system is working, leave it the way it is. Ejo, that's how it is, right? If CWG provides a core banking platform to you, just leave it for CWG, right? Build whatever you're building on top of it. If Finastra provides a core banking system for you, don't go there. Those systems are critically built, right? With deep researches, with some, massive experiences around it. So a an engineer with 5, 10 years experience doesn't make you a core banking engineer. Those are two different things, right? You'd realize that the people who work on core banking systems have some background in mathematics, finance, treasury. And I mean, those are the guys that even make the best engineers that work on core banking systems. So those are critical systems. Don't go there. Now let's leave that guy and move forward a bit. How do you optimize your core banking system to ensure you don't have lapses for transactions and maybe possible gaps that might need to be filled to ensure optimal performance of your system? I would say build high performing systems or build high performing abstractions outside the core banking system. I'm not recommending this technology, but I used to hear that a number of the um, progressive companies today in Nigeria and even beyond, they build their processing systems on a certain programming language called Golang, right? High with concurrency, high throughput, and the rest. You need such systems in place, right? And this is largely because of human resources. Today, you'd rather find 10 stacks of in the stack of 10, you'd find 9 other programming language engineers and then 1 Java or C Sharp. For crying out loud, where would you even find a C Sharp engineer in this country, right? So that is enough reason for you not to go to your core banking system, right? Because that would be a double jeopardy if you do that. So I would say building advanced systems above your core banking system with modern technologies and ensure you have enough resources to manage them. Core banking system is not it's not the rocket science per se. It can be if it is not done properly. It just requires people with prior experiences on how it is, right? And this cuts across all core banking systems. Whoever has worked with a core banking A can, to an extent, be able to pick up the understanding working with core banking B. And for context, a core banking system is a system because a core banking system is not a group of systems. It is one system that is the core banking system. Well, you can identify a number of systems at the depth of that financial organization as a core banking system, but it is just one particular system that constitutes what the core banking system do. So I would advise that to ensure optimal performance in your core banking systems and whatnot, as you've asked, additional systems are built above it, just to reiterate, and ensure resources are in place because technology again is just a tool. What drives the success of every core banking system is the business behind it, right? Access Bank wants to offer a certain fixed deposit with a certain tenor, APY, whatever the case may be. And that is the business. That is how the business would make more money, right? You need to figure out a way to build it as an abstracted layer on the core banking platform. You don't go down to the core banking platform to build it. So yes, protect your core banking at all costs. Have lots of abstraction as you can. Not so many, but just decently as you can. And then go to your customers. Thank you. I think planning, right? I would make an attempt to that question. This my answer to this question is not absolute, right? This is from my own POV. So don't take that for it, okay? Just build some perspective around it. So planning, right? Um, so I'll give a short experience based on a short story based on my experience. Um, we worked with a certain company. I was still at so we worked with a certain company in Lithuania, yes, and they needed to build some sort of communication rail for transaction to the bank. I think it's Barclays Bank. Yes, it should be Barclays Bank. And they were using a core banking platform then. I think it's called Pro Banks. Pro Banks, yeah. They were using a core banking platform called Pro Banks. And they needed to switch from Pro Banks to using the open source technology, the Apache Fineract technology. It's a big one. It was a really big decision for the institution to make. I could remember when we had lots of conversations on how we can re-architect the features and functionalities of ProBanks, because ProBanks is a really advanced core banking system in the level of the Finacle class. Maybe not close to that level, but somewhere around. And so we had this conversation around how we can re-architect the open source technology, for crying out loud, to match what a system that has been built from what 1999 or 2001 offers. And this is completely based on, of course, clientele requirements. I remember they made so many attempts to replicate each and every features they have. We were successful at some, we were very unsuccessful at so many of them. And to some extent, that project did not really see sunlight over a period of time. So here's my advice. Don't copy features from one core banking system to the other and implement on the other core banking systems. Core banking systems have their peculiarities, right? At the granular level of core banking systems, they are the key components of what a financial institution would want to do. How they are being represented is expected to be different, right? You would see some scenarios where some companies are migrating from one core banking system to the other, and they have so much expectations as to how they can have the same experience from the previous core banking system to the current core banking system. Now, forgetting the existing experience they can build up from the new core banking system, forgetting the opportunities that the current core banking system can open for them, right? They forget that, but they are tied to how they can experience exactly what they were using in the new core banking system, regardless of whatever the core banking system is doing. So I would say that the best approach to a system redesign is to plan and make proper research, so you don't copy a lot that you don't need, right? You and I know that this is just speculatively saying, right? You and I know that when a teller gets into the bank this morning, this is what he needs to do. This is what she needs to do. That is what she needs to do. At the end of the day, this is what she needs to do. Can we just go ahead and do it? Right? Can we just go ahead and build a feature to help her do that? Solve her problem. And guess what? You see bankers, they're very easygoing if you give them what they want, right? But if you don't, they'll make your life a living hell. You know what it means for, for bankers not to work throughout the entire day? And then the reason is because your system isn't working, or whatever you provided to them isn't working. So I would say make lots of planning, enough research. There are no specifics I can share right now on how you can, redesign your core banking platform. I mean, that is a really critical service. Like I mentioned earlier, if I should be taxed to build a core banking system again, I won't do it. I'm already in one. Yeah, thank you. So there are two sides to it, right? There is the programmatic side of it, and there is the graphical interface side of it. There are some core banking systems today that we all know. I mean, some of us would know that they have some sort of flexibility on the interface that you can extend some part of the feasibility of it, right? Maybe you want to add some, I mean, the best of core banking systems are used globally, right? So they serve the global market. So for your local market, you have some additional KYC requirements you want to add. The core banking interface is extended for you to do that, right? As the case may be. Then there is a programmatic side of it, where they provided some openings for you to like register your external application, or give you flexibility to build into the existing core banking application. While that is very relative and cuts across the difference cuts across different core banking systems, my advice will still be that leave it there. And I'll tell you why. Why is because there are some features and functionalities you expect to develop on top of that core banking system. The system in itself does not support it. Now, the leave it there I'm saying is not I'm not saying that this is your core banking system, build another system here without communicating with your core banking. No, no, no. What I'm saying is, don't go into your core banking system and build. Every core banking system, as many as it can be, have programmatic resources you can communicate with, right? So this is your core banking system. Always build externally and communicate with it. Don't go inside of it and update it. So probably that's the context I didn't cover properly. So that's what I mean by leave it there. Use the APIs and build. I was speaking to a colleague of mine recently, and I said to him that there are just some challenges that I've seen that financial institutions are having. I will be specific to microfinance because the context we're having a conversation for was a microfinance bank, right? They the the system, everything they need is with them, right? And you have the flexibility to build a lot more while communicating with this guy. But you choose to, want to have everything you build externally, locking yourself into this place. And that does not give you leverage to optimize your system better at peak periods or when there are probably any insurgencies with your system, right? Or any errors, any attack, any DDoS, whatever the case may be. You're not creating any room to protect your core banking system at all costs. The core banking system should be the most hidden element in your ecosystem. There should be lots of systems plus systems around it with a WAF, right? So this guy protects it at all costs. So the leave it alone I'm saying is communicate with it programmatically and build external systems around it. Don't integrate additional systems inside of it. Rather, build externally and extend the communication across both systems to interact, obviously, over a decent security protocols. You can achieve that. But don't go into your core banking system to change anything. That's what I would say about that.